History is often written in blood, and nowhere is that more evident than in the forgotten corners of the American landscape. We build bridges to connect us, but sometimes they become the site of our deepest fractures. Behind every creaking board and rusted rail on this list lies a true story of betrayal, tragedy, and the unexplained. From Civil War battlefields to the scenes of urban legends that turned terrifyingly real, we are counting down the 10 most haunted bridges in the United States. Let's step into the shadows and uncover the history that refuses to stay buried. 1. Bloody Bride Bridge, Oxford, Ohio. In the quiet stretches of Oxford, Ohio, where the remnants of the Miami and Erie Canal still cut through the earth, sits a site known as the Bloody Bride Bridge. Before the legends took root in the mid-19th century, this was a vital crossing for the canalers, the men who drove mules and steered boats along the waterway. It was a place of industry and rugged life, but by 1854, it became the stage for a tragedy that would never truly end. The story centers on a beautiful young woman named Minnie Warren and two men who were desperately in love with her, Jack Billings and Bill Jones. Jack was a kind-hearted mule driver, while Bill was known for a volatile, jealous temper. When Minnie chose Jack, Bill's heart didn't just break, it curdled into something monstrous. One autumn night in 1854, as Jack and Minnie were returning from a local party, Bill lay in wait behind the massive bridge pillars, a sharpened axe in his hands. As the couple stepped onto the timber, Bill lunged. With one savage swing, he decapitated Jack Billings right in front of his bride-to-be. Overcome with horror, Minnie screamed and fell, or was pushed, into the dark, icy waters of the canal below. Her body was pulled from the silt the next morning, but Bill Jones was never seen again, until years later, when a skeleton was found in a nearby well. After the murder, the bridge became a place of dread. For decades, locals claimed the bloodstains on the wood would never wash away, no matter how hard they scrubbed. Today, those who dare to cross at night report a heavy, suffocating atmosphere. The most common encounter is the sight of Minnie herself, a pale, shimmering figure in a tattered, blood-soaked wedding dress, pacing the shoreline or staring up from beneath the water's surface. Some drivers even claim to have seen a headless man standing in the center of the road, disappearing just as their headlights hit him. If you ever find yourself on Route 66 near Spencerville, listen closely. They say you can still hear Minnie's final heart-wrenching scream echoing through the trees. 9. Van Sant Covered Bridge, Solebury, Pennsylvania. Tucked away in the lush rolling hills of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, the Van Sant Covered Bridge is a picturesque relic of 1875. Built over Pidcock Creek using sturdy white oak and hemlock, it was named for the prominent Van Sant family who settled the area. In its early years, it was a peaceful thoroughfare for farmers and horse-drawn carriages, a masterpiece of 19th century engineering. But the bridge's shadows hide a much darker reputation as a crybaby bridge. The most haunting legend tells of a young, unwed mother in the late 1800s. Shunned by her family and left destitute, she stood on the rafters of the bridge, clutching her infant. In a fit of despair and madness, she cast the child into the rushing creek below before taking her own life. Another version of the bridge's history claims it was a site of vigilante justice, where horse thieves were summarily hanged from the overhead beams, their bodies left to swing as a warning to others. Since those dark days, the Van Sant Bridge has become a magnet for the paranormal. Visitors frequently report the sound of a baby's thin, wailing cry emanating from the water, even when no one is around. Paranormal investigators have documented electric waves of energy that make the hair on your arms stand up the moment you step inside. Perhaps most terrifying are the visual encounters. Several people have looked up into the rafters and seen the silhouettes of hanging men swaying in the wind, only for them to vanish a second later. If you visit, be warned. Locals say that if you stop your car in the middle of the bridge and turn off the engine, you might hear tiny, frantic handprints tapping against your windows. Faint baby wail heard off-screen. 8. Everett Road Covered Bridge, Peninsula, Ohio. The Everett Road Covered Bridge in the Cuyahoga Valley of Ohio is a striking red structure, but the one you see today is a replica. The original bridge, built in the 1870s, was a place of deep misfortune. Long before the bridge even existed, the land was sacred. Construction workers in the 1850s reportedly unearthed a Hopewell Native American burial mound while laying the road, a discovery they ignored to finish their work. A decision many believe cursed the area forever. The bridge's most famous ghost is that of John Gilson. On a frigid night in February 1877, Gilson and his wife were returning home from a party. The winter storm had swollen the creek, making the usual crossing impossible. As they attempted to navigate the bridge area, their horses bolted in terror. The wagon overturned, throwing Mrs. Gilson to safety but dragging John and the horses into the icy, churning depths. John's body wasn't found for 4 days. After the tragedy, the bridge became a hotspot for the Everett hitchhiker. Drivers frequently report seeing a man in period clothing standing by the roadside, gesturing for a ride. When they pull over, he vanishes. Others have reported hearing disembodied voices pleading for help near the water's edge, exactly where John Gilson met his end. The atmosphere is so thick with dread that many refuse to walk through it alone at night. Even after the original bridge was destroyed by a flood in 1975 and rebuilt in 1986, the spirits remained. They say the dead don't care if the wood is new. The ground remembers what happened there. 7. Wrecks-covered bridge, North Whitehall Township, Pennsylvania. In North Whitehall Township, Pennsylvania, the wrecks-covered bridge spans Jordan Creek. Built in 1858, its burr truss design is a beautiful example of historic architecture. For over a century, it served as a quiet rural crossing, but as the decades passed, the bridge began to collect stories that were anything but quiet. It is a place where the veil between worlds is said to be dangerously thin. The legend of the Wrecks Bridge is unique, often revolving around a figure known as Lumi. Local lore suggests she was a performer who was betrayed and murdered near the bridge, her body hidden beneath the floorboards. Unlike many ghosts who simply haunt, Lumi is said to be a hungry spirit. She doesn't just appear, she reaches out. Encounters at the wrecks-covered bridge are often sensory and seductive. Travelers passing through late at night speak of a thick, pulsing mist that gathers under the rafters, even when the rest of the air is clear. Within that mist, men especially have reported hearing a velvet voice whispering their names, or a soft, melodic giggle echoing through the timbers. Some claim to have seen a pale woman kneeling in the darkness, her face obscured by shadow. Those who have stopped to investigate report leaving the bridge in a dazed, trance-like state, feeling as though something vital has been drained from their very souls. The local warning is simple. No matter how sweet the voice sounds, do not stop. Keep your eyes on the road and drive until you see the sun. 6. Bunnyman Bridge, Fairfax Station, Virginia. Perhaps the most famous urban legend in the United States belongs to the Bunnyman Bridge, officially the Colchester Overpass in Fairfax Station, Virginia. This one-lane concrete tunnel, built in 1906, is a stark, claustrophobic passage beneath railroad tracks. While many haunted bridges rely on 19th century lore, the Bunnyman has roots in terrifying real-world events. The legend claims that in 1904, a bus transporting inmates from a nearby asylum crashed. Most were recaptured, but one man, Douglas J. Griffin, escaped. Over the following weeks, locals found hundreds of half-eaten skinned rabbits hanging from the trees and the bridge itself. On Halloween night, the legend says Griffin was finally cornered at the bridge, where he was struck by a train. But the horror didn't end with his death. In 1970, the Bunnyman became terrifyingly real. Multiple police reports documented a man dressed in a white rabbit suit, wielding a hatchet, who would scream at people for trespassing and even throw his axe through car windows. One couple reported the man standing in the middle of the road, his eyes wild behind the rabbit mask, holding a hatchet and screaming about private property. Today, the bridge is a place of absolute terror on Halloween. There are dozens of reports of people seeing a figure in a white suit standing atop the overpass, clutching an axe. Some claim to have found actual rabbit carcasses hanging from the bridge on the anniversary of the 1904 crash. The bridge is so notorious that police now patrol the area heavily every October to keep thrill-seekers away. It remains a grim reminder that sometimes the monster in the costume is more frightening than any ghost. 5. Crybaby Bridges, Ohio and Texas. Across the American landscape, from the backroads of Ohio to the piney woods of Texas, there exists a shared piece of folklore, the Crybaby Bridge. While there are dozens of these bridges, they all share a pre-haunted history of rural isolation. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, these bridges were often the only way across dangerous rising creeks. Before they were haunted, they were simply life-saving infrastructure for farmers and traveling families. However, life in these isolated pockets was often harsh, and the history of these bridges is frequently tied to the desperate stories of unwed mothers or poverty-stricken families who felt they had no choice but to abandon their infants to the dark waters below. The legend is almost always the same. A mother, driven by grief or shame, threw her baby over the side, followed by her own tragic end. In Texas, the bridge on Jack's Creek is a prime example. In Ohio, the bridge near Litchfield holds a similar dark crown. The history after these incidents turned from tragedy to terror. These locations became thresholds to the other side. The encounters are chillingly consistent. If you drive onto one of these bridges at midnight, turn off your engine, and sprinkle baby powder on your hood or trunk, the horror begins. Witnesses report hearing the faint, rhythmic sound of a child's crying rising from the water, growing louder until it sounds like it's inside the car. When they turn their lights back on, many find tiny, dusty handprints pressed into the baby powder on their vehicle. Others report seeing a woman in white frantically pacing the bridge, looking for something she can never find. These aren't just stories. They are sensory experiences. Cold spots, the smell of damp earth and old perfume, and the feeling of small invisible hands grabbing at your ankles as you walk across the old wood. 4. Stuckey's Bridge, Meridian, Mississippi. Built in the mid-19th century, Stuckey's Bridge in Mississippi originally served as a vital link for the Chunky River. But the bridge carries a history far more sinister than simple commerce. Legend tells of a man named Dalton Stuckey, a member of the notorious Dalton Gang, who operated an inn near the river. Stuckey was a wolf in sheep's clothing. He would welcome weary travelers with a warm meal and a bed, only to murder them in their sleep, rob them, and dump their bodies into the river from the bridge. His reign of terror ended in 1850 when he was finally caught and hanged from the very bridge where he disposed of his victims. After his death, the bridge was never the same. It was eventually replaced by a steel structure in 1901, but the ghost of Dalton Stuckey remained anchored to the site. Locals began reporting a tall, dark figure standing on the bridge at night, holding a flickering lantern, the same lantern he used to lure his victims to his inn. The encounters at Stuckey's Bridge are famously aggressive. Paranormal investigators have recorded disembodied voices snarling at them to get out. People walking the bridge after dark have reported being pushed by invisible hands or seeing a man's body swinging from the rafters, only for it to vanish when a flashlight is shone upon it. Perhaps most disturbing is the sound of heavy splashing in the water below, as if a heavy body has just been tossed in, followed by a cold, mocking laughter that echoes through the trees. Stuckey was a predator in life, and many believe his spirit still hunts the Chunky River today. 3. Sachs Covered Bridge, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The Sachs Covered Bridge in Pennsylvania is perhaps the most somber location on this list. Built in 1854, it is a beautiful lattice truss bridge that spans Marsh Creek. Its history before the haunting is inextricably linked to the American Civil War. During the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863, the bridge was used by both Union and Confederate armies. It served as a vital artery for troops, and later, a grim path for the retreating Confederate Army under General Robert E. Lee. The horror of the bridge stems from a specific incident involving 3 Confederate soldiers who were caught attempting to desert. According to local history and lore, they were taken to the Sachs Bridge and hanged from the internal beams by their own comrades as a warning. Their bodies were left to swing in the damp air as the army marched away. Today, the bridge is a mecca for ghost hunters. The encounters here are less about jump scares and more about a deep, crushing sorrow. Visitors frequently report the smell of strong, sweet pipe tobacco, the kind soldiers would have smoked, drifting through the air. Many have captured photographs of misty figures wearing gray uniforms standing at the end of the bridge, as if still on guard. On quiet nights, the sounds of distant cannon fire and the rhythmic marching of boots on wood are heard. The most terrifying encounter involves the feeling of a rope tightening around one's neck, a phantom sensation that has sent many a visitor running for their lives back to the safety of the main road. 2. Brook Covered Bridge, Emily's Bridge, Stowe, Vermont. In the picturesque town of Stowe, Vermont, sits the Brook Covered Bridge, more infamously known as Emily's Bridge. Built in 1844, it was a charming piece of New England architecture meant for horse and buggy travel. The haunting is centered on a girl named Emily. The most popular version of the story is that Emily was a young woman in the mid-1800s who was supposed to meet her lover at the bridge to elope. When he failed to show, she was so overcome with grief that she hanged herself from the rafters. In the years following her death, the bridge's reputation turned from romantic to vengeful. Unlike many spirits who are passive, Emily is known for her anger toward those who enter her bridge, particularly men. Real-world encounters at Emily's Bridge are visceral. Drivers have reported finding long, deep scratches in the paint of their cars after passing through the bridge. People walking inside have felt invisible claws raking across their backs or arms. There are numerous reports of a white, wispy entity that lunges at cars, or a woman's voice screaming, "Go away," from the shadows of the rafters. On several occasions, horses have famously refused to cross the bridge, sensing an energy that humans only realize once it's too late. Emily isn't just a ghost. She is a guardian of her own tragedy, and she does not welcome company. 1. Old Alton Bridge, Goatman Bridge, Denton, Texas. Finally, we come to the most notorious bridge in the South, the Old Alton Bridge in Texas, better known as Goatman Bridge. Built in 1884, it connected Denton to Copper Canyon. The history before the haunting is one of success, and then brutal, senseless hate. In the early 20th century, a black businessman named Oscar Washburn lived near the bridge. He was a successful goat farmer, known by locals as the Goatman. He was a pillar of the community, but his success drew the ire of the local Ku Klux Klan. In 1938, Klansmen kidnapped Washburn and threw him over the side of the bridge with a noose around his neck. When they looked over the side to see his body, the noose was empty. Washburn had disappeared. In their rage, they returned to his home and murdered his family. After that night, the bridge became a site of pure malevolence. The legend says that Washburn's spirit transformed into a demonic entity, a half-man, half-goat creature, vowing to kill anyone who crossed the bridge with hate in their heart, or anyone who dared to knock on the bridge's iron frame 3 times. The encounters at Goatman's Bridge are the stuff of nightmares. People have reported being physically attacked, thrown against the iron rails, or choked by unseen hands. Witnesses describe seeing a massive 7-foot-tall figure with glowing red eyes and horns standing in the woods nearby. Strange, ritualistic symbols often appear on the ground around the bridge, and the sound of heavy hooves clicking on the wooden planks is a frequent occurrence. Paranormal investigators have recorded some of the most aggressive EVP, electronic voice phenomena here, with a gravelly, inhuman voice growling threats. It is a place where the air feels heavy with a vengeful, ancient power that has never forgotten the injustice of 1938. From the screams of the Crybaby Bridges to the vengeful spirit of the Goatman, we've traveled the haunted map of America. These stories remind us that while time moves forward, some moments are frozen forever in the atmosphere of these historic crossings. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown. If you enjoyed these tales of the macabre, be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's darkest mysteries. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road and stay safe out there.